starting the recording. We will also be sharing out the slides with the recording at the end of the presentation today. For those who may be unfamiliar, this webinar is brought to you by Caring.com. Caring.com is a leading online resource for senior living and senior care. Our organization was founded by caregivers for caregivers. Our flagship website, Caring.com, was created and launched in 2007 to equip family caregivers to make better decisions, save time and money, and feel less alone and less stressed in providing care to their loved ones. Today, we have a portfolio of websites and referral services that millions of communities and home care agencies are using to reach their target audience, people who are actively seeking care in their area. One of the many reasons care seekers turn to Caring is for our high integrity reviews program, where we have over 375,000 consumer reviews. Caring is also excited to share that we are now a participant in the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP. I'm going to kick it off with some introductions. My name is Megan Mulrain. I am the B2B Marketing Associate here at Caring, and I'm going to be serving as the moderator for today's presentation. But more importantly, I'm going to hand it off to our two co-hosts, Emily and Allison, to get it started and talk us through. So I will pass it off to you both.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you, everyone. I love what an active chat we have over here. I see Esther and Ron and Lisa's there, Brittany, Andrew, Joan, Candy. We have so many people. We're so excited. And let me go ahead and get my screen shared so we can move along with our presentation, because we know everyone today is very busy and we hope you have high expectations. We have plenty to cover today. So a huge thank you to Caring.com for having Allie and I, the team over at Hey There Social Media, to speak to everyone today. If you are seeing my screen, and as Megan mentioned, you're here to learn about some proven social media strategies for growth through community engagement. We wanted to make sure to give you a nice long title to imply all the value that we've worked really hard to put together for you. So as we get started, I know we covered some housekeeping. So Allie, thanks for chiming in over on chat. We'll be ping-ponging a little bit here. So as you're looking at this slide, as people are rolling in, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to make this a power hour. And so, of course, we'll tell you a little bit about Hey There Social Media in a minute, so you know who you are hearing from. But like I said, we're going with 3 proven social media strategies for growth. There's a lot of noise out there. Social media has clearly reached a mature point. This isn't, a basic marketing method anymore. So we want to help you get clarity. We also love to give specific tactics. So, I feel like some people say, as long as I get one good thing out of the webinar, it was worth my time. Well, we want to be very specific with things that you have new ideas about, and you have new tactics to reach specific goals. So you can hold us accountable for that one. As we go through the presentation, you'll see our cute company color graphic off to the right here. We have a few opportunities for you to, if you're an old school pen and paper kind of gal like me, just a few opportunities that we will ask you to take a moment and evaluate just a quick concept that we've covered, just to give yourself a better sense of how you are tackling some of these strategies. And then naturally, not only will we finish with letting you know ways that Hey There Social Media can help you, but we will be giving a special offer, because again, you're all busy and you've made time to come to this webinar. So let us shower you with a special offer that we promise is worth hanging around for till the very end. Megan mentioned this is a one-way webcast, but of course, as questions come in through the chat, we will make sure to address some of those towards the end of the presentation. So without further ado, okay, just a little bit about us, again, so you know who you're listening to. My name is Emily A. Hay, and I'm the founder of Hey There Social Media. I have run this social media company as a boutique agency since way back in 2009. This company has served B2C clients in our state, in our region, across the nation, businesses that need very specific help with the social media strategy, implementation, and so forth. Fun fact, a couple of years ago, the company added a new division, and that's where my partner Allie here will certainly talk about that. But we decided to empower more social media experts to do what they do best. And so we professionally train social media experts across the country, and we literally deploy them as strategists, as managers. So like I said, we have a solid decade plus under our belt as an agency, but now we have this additional way to service businesses that's really taking advantage of more of a flexible freelance work environment. This little tiny screenshot I have here, this thumbnail, again, I'm speaking to many professionals in the senior living industry, and so naturally you empathize with caregivers. So there was a documentary that Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine directed and produced called Fair Play, and it is basically about the gender division of labor. I'll stop there. You are welcome to look that up on any of the networks, Amazon Prime, Hulu, etc. But my husband and my two children and I were one of the stories that they followed for a few years to show how families are really handling all of the invisible labor that goes into caring for children and aging loved ones. So I encourage you to check that out. Allie, tell us about you, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Allison Spitzer, and before I joined Emily with Hey There, back right around the pandemic, I had the bulk of my career in automotive retail, where I ran day-to-day operations, which included an 8-figure marketing budget annually that dealt with dozens and dozens of vendors and partners that, definitely I learned a lot about what good partners look like. And I knew the need that was out there for businesses across the board to do a better job in that one-to-one connection on social media, and to be able to train freelance flexible work at the same time is just a win-win. And I'm excited to be here and hopefully leave a few actionable items for you at the end of the webinar.
Amazing. Thank you, Allie. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's talk. First proven social media strategy. Remember, we're gonna start high up and we're gonna work our way down into some tactics. So let us be the ones to tell you, beginning with a clear strategy that defines your target audience and business goals is just key. It's absolutely required. It's, we're past the point of wanting to do spaghetti at the wall, or we're experimenting. There is so much to having a clear strategy. We have a couple of pointers here, but this stat, there's so many stats. This one again speaks so much that businesses and need to be out there to be discovered on social media. We know that, but it's important for businesses to not just go through the motions and not just say Facebook page, check, Instagram handle, check. Having a strategy can look a number of different ways. So one of the things we say here is, we talk to businesses and we say, do you have a document you can literally open on your computer? Do you have a document that is in your recently opened? Do you have a document that you can PDF and send off to us that you say, this is our strategy, this is our overall clear social strategy that defines the target audience and business goals? It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you have that marketing strategy, but maybe not a specific social strategy. But I make this point about this document should not collect dust, because as much as I love a good task, like get strategy done, check it off, referring back to this strategy document is key. So that's why I say push yourself. And this is something that you should have in your recently opened documents as you plan social content, as you plan a quarterly calendar, a monthly calendar. Again, this clear strategy document is not something that should ever be left and revisited twice a year, for example. We give you huge bonus points if your social media team was involved with creating it. So again, so many senior living communities and home care agencies have perhaps a marketing leader on the team. Maybe you have someone on staff for social. Maybe you're working with outside teams. But bonus points if your strategy was created recently enough that the social media point people were involved with it. A few things to debunk, the myth of social media strategies aren't just, we post 5 times a week. Frequent posts, while we'll give you a high five for having frequent posts, it's not the same as a strategy. The other thing that a strategy is not is that content calendar. Obviously, Allie and I live and breathe the social media space, and there is a lot out there of people saying, red alert, if a social media strategist says, here's your calendar, that's the same as a strategy. It's simply not. It is a method to bring a strategy to life. But again, not to damper any spirits if you have a good calendar, but it is not the same as a strategy. Allie, anything to add on this one?
Nope. I think it's very hard because it does take a lot of consistent, dedicated focus. So do not feel alone if it's not something you can confidently say that you have a strategy in place every month to execute.
Thanks, Allie. Okay, so first evaluation opportunity. Like I said, we're starting high level. We'll get a little more into the details, but go ahead, make a quick note on your pen and paper, just an A, B, or C. With regards to having a clear strategy, do you feel you are A, doing this well, B, sort of doing this, or it's okay? Are you letter C, not doing this at all? Okay, there's our pause moment. All right, let's talk about the second strategy here. So, proven social media strategy is to create content to speak directly to your target audience. I know you're not spending time writing posts that speak to your, 13-year-old niece or someone else that does not meet the target audience, but it's very easy to check the box and say, well, as long as our post educates people, or as long as our post is conversational in nature, like we're doing a good job. But you need that content to speak directly to that target audience member. So let's give you a couple of ways to do that. In marketing, I'm sure you've heard of the avatar. There's always the archetype, the customer avatar. We find that people, especially businesses that think about their marketing avatar, they almost list this as a profile. Where does this person live? What's their age? Maybe a little bit about their needs, but it doesn't go deeper. And so what we would like to invite you to do is consider a content muse. I had a lot of fun on Google, looking up define muse and famous creators that used muses. But a muse, defined thanks to Google, a person or personified force who's the source of inspiration for a creative artist. We find when we use a muse versus a simple marketing avatar, we better consider their specific needs. And, a demographic, again, that's more of a profile, that's more of an avatar. But in marketing now, especially on social, you want to lean into psychographics. So psychographics can be personality traits, interests, life cycle stage, attitudes, beliefs, etc. So these are deeper levels that you want to resonate with the person reading your content. So again, maybe before we would say create content that speaks to your target audience, but now it speaks directly, directly connect with them. If you hear, stop the scroll, people don't necessarily stop their scroll for what it says. They stop their scroll for what your content made them feel. So speaking directly, again, considering psychographics is really important to do. Now, pro tip, how you can bring that to life and, feel like you've checked the box that you're considering psychographics. When you are outlining a content plan, a best practice, you hear people talk about content pillars or content categories. Maybe your content calendar contains those categories. It's a very prudent way to structure a content calendar. Well, we would really push you to integrate that person into the content plan. So maybe you have an educational post happening on Tuesday, but who's it written for? What psychographic are you wanting that person to stop and connect with and really say, oh my gosh, that really hit me on that one. So it's one thing to provide an article or just some overall information, but considering a muse will be a faster way to get you to this point. Allie, any thoughts?
Yeah, just being, patient with collecting the right audience, the audience you truly want, and speaking to them versus, it used to be about impressions and how many likes, and create a following, that may be full of people that would never, interact with your company. So just staying strong and focused on your muse is so important.
Well said. Okay, while that is fresh in your mind, go ahead, pen, paper, take another quick minute, and let's just write down A, B, or C. With regards to having content that speaks directly to your target audience, would you say you are doing this well? Are you B, sort of doing this? Or C, it's okay, not doing this at all? Okay, now we're going to get into a little bit more specifics here. Let's talk about the third proven social media strategy. Create content with a clear goal in mind. So this brings back the origin of the topic for today, community engagement. So an example of a clear goal for your content can be content to create engagement. Not just content to inform, not just content to educate. You want content to create engagement. We all know it's harder than ever to get attention on our posts, especially if the posts don't do anything to the person that reads it. So let's start with thinking about topics that people love to share their personal experience about. Whether it's you as a person or, the customers with your senior living community or home care agency, think about those stories that if a topic is brought up, people can't resist sharing their personal experience about it. So when you're doing content that gets people to share their experience, think about it as creating a feedback loop. So it's, again, very conversational in nature. You ask someone a question and then one person chimes in and then the next person builds upon that. And then someone might go off on a tangent, but hey, there's still engagement happening on the post. And then the original person, says something. So a feedback loop, it keeps going on its own. It keeps moving, hence being a loop. But that's something I want you to think about, that it's not just about, let me post something that gets an answer. Let me post something that gets people to share their personal experience with it. And the next person that reads it cannot resist. Even if they read the post 5 days later, they still need to chime in and leave their personal experience about it. Pro tip, these topics might be ones that you would initially shy away from. So we're going to push you to stretch today. And as you think about topics, something we would encourage, we all have FAQs, right? We all have things that we know people that may be considering a senior living community or a home care agency. What are the top things they care about and that they ask about? So my example of a topic you might initially shy away from might be cost. As I was Googling, as I personally lived this experience, thinking about these decisions, people want to know what it costs. And as industry insiders, again, Allie and I with our business, we know there are questions in a business that you go, oh gosh, can we just not talk about that? But I tell you, when you bring those topics forth, it makes you stand out. And it builds trust so quickly because you're going there. And if you are the source to demystify what something can cost, if you talk about something that might classically be uncomfortable, or if the business feels, it's just too dicey, I encourage you to go for it. It really can be the difference between creating that feedback loop and just having a post that gets a couple of likes. Allie, anything to add on that before we talk about the formats?
I would just say, generally, if there's a sense of vulnerability in what you're writing, it probably will resonate. And just the old saying, in order to get trust, you have to give trust. And so by sharing that information, you are doing actually a trust transaction that should create a stronger bond to your organization.
I love that. So some formats of content that can reach this goal of creating engagement. Consider a weekly chat. So yes, I talked about some more touchy topics that you might think are touchy, but worth going for. But you could do a weekly chat about health and wellness. Maybe something you could ask is, what is something you do to support your mental health? People love to chime in. I love taking a walk. I swear by podcasts. It's something that, like I said, people just can't resist sharing their personal experience with, and then people can build on it from there. So that could be something that you just build as a post. But a very specific tactic that we're going to dive into in the next couple of slides is the idea of doing a live. So going live video on social media. I will let you know which networks we're talking about. I will let you know what this looks like, but the idea of going live can directly create engagement. So tactic leading to specific goal. So let's talk
Emily,
about—
you do have a question from
sure.
Brittany.
Okay.
Clarifying weekly chat. What do you mean by weekly chat?
Okay, sure. So if we're just going with out of the gate, you have a Facebook page and Instagram, you could do a meme that says something like, share your best health and wellness tip or mental health tip, or what is something you do every day for your mental health, and then see if people start adding something from there. So a weekly chat could be a post that people then, of course, post comments. I have seen companies taking this further. After a post like that, it can end with, join us next Tuesday for this Zoom. Here's the link to register, and we're going to talk more about mental health best practices. So it might feel a little strange at first. So you're saying I host a Zoom with a bunch of strangers, but consider it it's a weekly chat. It's something that you experiment with. It is different from a going live, which is what we'll cover. But I would say the easiest way to start this, if that's your question, Brittany, thank you, is doing it as a post and simply posing a question that people will want to share their personal experience about. Thanks, Allie, for reading that. Okay, let's talk about going live. Why would we go live? Okay, Emily, what are you talking about? Going live. So going live is very powerful for a number of reasons. And again, when we think of video, you've been told by social media experts that leveraging video is super important. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you are already doing that. But going live is a different type of video. So going live can certainly increase community engagement for a number of reasons. And one of them right here, there is data showing that people are watching live streaming content longer. They're watching it more than a video on demand or say a post, that has a video already in it. This is not a suggestion to abandon pre-recorded video and video posts altogether. We just want to push you to think a little bit differently about types of video content here. So going live builds trust. This is not unlike Allie's example, of a topic that may, make you feel a little vulnerable. When you go live, and when I say you, the business, a member of your team, we will talk about the who's, but when I say you going live, just the fact that people feel, wow, this business is very accessible. We as social media content creators, we're constantly working on video that tells the story of the business, but it's just a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level to know that you can watch a live conversation happen and be chiming in through the comments, for example. It is powerful for businesses with a local community. So let's be honest, so much of our goals, especially in this audience, is having people then decide to work with you that are within your geographical range. So it's a very cost-effective way to, of course, extend your reach. An example I like to think of is, what if you wanted to host an event? What if your enrichment director said, let's do something with, a local florist, or let's do something with a local, something dog related, animal related. It takes time and resources and energy to put an actual event together. But you could quickly extend your reach as a business to the followers of that business by doing a live, with that community partner. So, like I said, a florist, for example, but it's a great way to leverage the trust that business has, but again, in a cost-effective and quick way. Allie, again, with your automotive experience, anything on the local level that speaks to you?
Well, we didn't use live, but it would have been really nice. We do a lot of, there's a lot of local events that take place. So to be able to even ramp up to any events that you have planned, this is a great way to at least create some hype around it.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay. So best practices for lives. So whether you've thought about this, whether you've done this before, whether this is a completely new concept to you, let us just give you a couple of Cliff's notes here. So where to go live? If you have a Facebook page, you can go live through that. Instagram is, in my opinion, arguably the easiest place to go live, right through the app. And LinkedIn. So the screenshot off to the right is a LinkedIn Live I did recently with a digital marketing organization. And going live on LinkedIn definitely has a different feel. That's more the professional social network. So your topic might be different. As you can see, Amy and another Emily and I, when we were talking, it had almost like a podcast feel. While in Instagram Live, you're going to be doing it from your phone. So it's okay. It's a little more forgiving if the phone is moving a bit and the background isn't perfect. I like to think of it as going live on Facebook or Instagram is like having a FaceTime call, but going on a LinkedIn Live is more almost like this. And we invite you. I know Megan will be sharing some of the details at some point through email and whatnot, but we are going to be doing a LinkedIn Live with Caring.com in a few weeks from today, actually. So we will give you a chance just to be a fly on the wall. And you can head to that LinkedIn Live right through Caring.com's LinkedIn page. And like I said, just witness it. As you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you'll start to come across these, but not only can you watch live, the page will let people know in the network that's following it, hey, the page is live, tune in, but then you have this beautiful video post that lives on. So it's definitely worth doing on LinkedIn if you haven't tried. As for the who, what, when, so naturally thinking in terms of your senior living community or your home healthcare agency, you want to think about who would be someone to go live with. I gave some examples on the enrichment side of things, just on a small scale, but thinking about activities and events that might resonate with your residents. I think about, here we are in summer, classic car shows, parades, things that are happening around town, that there's got to be an organizer involved in those events. Those events obviously have a Facebook page. You've got nothing to lose to be able to reach out and say, we'd like to do a live with you. And what we want to cover is, talk about the 5 best cars that you're featuring from, 1950. Just thinking about things that resonate with your target audience. And even if your immediate residents aren't the ones tuning into live, family members and loved ones that have aging parents might be the first to say, look at this. This is so great. This is just online. How great would the community be if we actually chose it to move into? As for the when, that's a pretty obvious one if you're going with, something that's time sensitive. But I would also encourage you to look at doing these quarterly. So you can affect maybe your slower seasons. Don't hold out on a live during your busy season, but it's something that you can sprinkle in throughout the year to, like I said, address just different times of demand. The recommendation here, so we never like to say try it once, yes, try something once, but make sure to do it more than that. And so starting with 5 to 6 lives, as you come up with a plan, you can spread those out over a couple of months. Again, nothing's worse than going live once, having a few live viewers and saying, never mind, it didn't work for us. So there's a lot of things to experiment with lives, and that's certainly something that that we help our clients with, but do not give up. And a live is a live. So what I mean by that is don't worry about, well, does that mean 2 Facebook lives, 2 Instagram, 2 LinkedIn? It can be any combination. If you are going live on one of your social networks, then a live is a live, and you will learn which networks you like to do and use best. As for success being measured, so one of the things I think about is, who to go live with, but who in your organization is best to go live. Maybe someone right now, if you are listening to this webinar, maybe you are the perfect person to go live for the business. But we really encourage you to push leadership team, push management, people that are maybe a little more comfortable, being behind the scenes, but it can make a big difference for people seeing that content to already feel deeply connected with those in charge at the company. Again, it really speeds up the trust building. Other elements to measure success, we could go on and on. But again, your success metrics might be, we got it done. It's a new idea and we got it done. And the first time we had X number of people tune in live. Maybe one of the things you look at is, for the first live, we did it and it was done. But the second live, we included in our e-newsletter. Maybe it's something that you take snippets from, because like I said, you get this video that you can refer back to. So success metrics can also be leveraging your time and what you were able to accomplish from creating that piece of content, not just initial viewership. Allie, anything on that?
I would just say, it's a holistic view of, the engagement that you're seeing in your social strategy, where people are really, in discussion or responding. I would kind of base, whatever the topic you choose, make it something that leaves them thinking differently or with an aha moment, based on the more, high activity topics that you're seeing, spark conversations in your social.
Thank you. Yes, there's, again, maybe picking the place to go live, the topics, either, who might be featured in it. All those factors can come in to what you were just mentioning.
And just one quick question from Brittany again. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Does reposting the live event on YouTube make sense?
Yes, although I stopped for a minute because I don't remember the ability to download the actual video. My thought is, for example, this LinkedIn Live, that post is there, and sure, I can repost it and I can share the link to the post and people can see it again. But I'm not sure, I would need to Google that myself, if I can export that video file. My guess is you can't. So republishing something to YouTube from another social network is probably not possible. But if you were to do a live, say a weekly chat in Zoom, you could be making this recording. And so the recording is something you'd have the actual raw file and you could upload that to YouTube. You could also do, I'm thinking outside the box, if you wanted to get something to YouTube, you could do a screen recording. If you had the LinkedIn Live playing within the LinkedIn app and do a screen recording, just a snippet of it. There's YouTube Shorts, which, the very, very short snippets, almost like TikTok video. So that's something that you could do to leverage some of that content over to YouTube. But I love the idea. We'd love to leverage content on one network to another. And obviously YouTube is a great place to house all kinds of video content. Any other questions on that one?
And then Angela is asking, what are your thoughts on Facebook Live?
Oh, well, I mean, my thoughts are definitely do it. With a Facebook Live, again, we're past the point of needing super polished professional settings for every type of video. So do not get all worked up about, it must be this whole elaborate scene. It has to be this formal script. Going live on Facebook is a really approachable way to be able to have a conversation with perhaps a colleague, perhaps a resident, maybe it's a partner. Allie, we were brainstorming of different lives. I think about when I think through Instagram, people that I have turned to as I was thinking about where my aging loved ones would eventually live, I think about decluttering. And there's so many, this is a very specific example, but there's so many home organizers. There's so many people that help declutter and downsize spaces. So those people are really popular on Instagram. And so you could do a live with one of those people. Maybe there's someone in your community who has a couple thousand following on Instagram, and you could say, today we're going live with so-and-so through a Facebook Live, and that would be a good way just to get some tips with them. So whether you're actually sitting in the same room, or you can do, especially on Instagram, you can do the split screen. You just invite a collaborator. I know I'm very in the weeds on this right now, but yes, I highly recommend going with the Facebook Live, especially if you find that's where so much of your audience is, then start there. It's a great place. Okay, I'll keep moving here. So now that we've talked about all those lives, let's take this third opportunity to just pause and say, okay, if my goal is to have content that creates engagement, am I doing this well? Are we B, sort of doing this, or naturally C, not doing this at all? And we do want you to specifically think about those lives. Okay. Okay, so we'll do a tally time. We didn't want to make you work too hard. So of those 3 questions, go ahead, look at what you have down. And if you got all A's, amazing. That's a fantastic job. However, if you got any combination, yes, I'm doing this well, I'm sort of doing this, not doing this at all, then we don't see it as, oh, you really failed the assignment. You have a huge opportunity. You have a huge opportunity to get very specific, implement some tactics, try some things differently, have a little bit different of a lens to look through as you judge the types of topics and who you're speaking to, again, with the Muse. So it's a huge opportunity, as I said. And what we'll do now, we'll talk a little bit about how Hey There Social Media can help you with that. And eventually I will stop sharing my screen so that I can see the questions too. But Allie, please keep making mental note. I do see a lot of chat buzzing, which I love.
Yes, it looks like a lot of peer experience feedback on the reposting of lives.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. Did anyone have a clarification on what I was wondering about the download?
There are several in there. So if anybody's curious, you can definitely check it out.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so as we started this presentation, I probably glossed over that, yes, B2C, business to consumer businesses, is who Hey There Social Media built our whole book of business on. But the senior living industry is one that we've worked in. We've worked in franchise. We've worked in a number of different business structures. Medical, it has been one, nonprofit, but senior living is really close to our heart because we are an all-female team and we just really resonate with the needs of these decision makers that are that sandwich generation, the caregiving person in the house. So we help businesses in one of 2 ways. And off to the left, you can see that we do this work with you. So if you were sitting here saying, Emily, I'm the person that is in charge of turning those C's to B's and in charge of turning the B's to A's, then we would love to work with you. So again, maybe the strategy question, you said, doing this a little bit. Well, if you need a refresh with your strategy, if you need, perhaps you're doing fine with your content, but maybe you're just doing fine. You'd like to refresh your content targeting. That's something that we help clients with as well. I would really want to open your eyes to the fact that we support our clients in some, we think outside the box ways. We offer training. We have plenty of clients that come to us and simply need, we need a really focused training on community management, or again, maybe content creation. So training is something we do, whether that's in a group format or working one-to-one. And we also have an offering that is, think of it as social media office hours or a social media help desk. So if you are, again, tasked with this work and you've got it covered, but once in a while, you just wish you could phone a friend and you had this outside social media support team made of strategists and managers, that is an offering that we have. And then off to the right, doing the work for you. So naturally, if all of this feels, this is not my zone of genius, this is not my job to handle, and we really want to rethink the way we're doing this, we execute everything that we talked about today. So, having that content strategy, making content that's in alignment with it, of course, publishing your posts, of course, community building, managing those online reviews. We will never not include KPIs and showing the results of our work. So consider that too, if you need this done for you. As we wrap up this next offer, let me go ahead, that I promised was worth sticking around for. So we have this limited offer, and we are offering 5 businesses to basically come to us and say, okay, here's my grades. I got an A, I got 2 Bs, I got all Cs, whatever I got, but we want to call it the ABC review. And our team of social media experts will look at your social presence and be able to tell you, here are some specific opportunities you have to get those Cs to Bs and those Bs to As. And maybe we'll push you and we'll help you think outside the box on something that you already think you're doing really well. So we're giving this a good day, 24-hour window for the first 5 to claim this offer. And we're giving you 3 ways to do that. So go ahead, send an email right off to our info@heytheresocialmedia.com email address. Nothing fancy. You can put ABC in the subject line or ABC in the body of the email. You can send a text with ABC to the number listed here. And off to the right, our QR code does take you simply to the contact form page of our website. So again, it'll take you to heytheresocialmedia.com/contact us. And you could also say right there that you were interested in this ABC review. So we really appreciate the time and your interest in all of this. Megan, we could do a whole day on a webinar to talk about these things in great detail. So we hope that it at least, left people with some new ideas that they want to explore further.
Yes, I love seeing all of the replies and like sharing tips back and forth. One thing that I will note is that we did get feedback. It was just sent to us on how to download previous lives from other industries. So I will just share a couple of snippets of that just for the audience here. For LinkedIn, there isn't a way to do it directly from LinkedIn, but there are some third-party tools. Brittany mentioned Restream is one of them, but there is a way that you can download it. It's not only third-party, but for Facebook and Instagram, the lives are saved to your video library for Facebook and Instagram respectively. And there is a way that you can go download that. So I can share the instructions for that if anybody is curious, but it will be, you go to your profile and videos and you're able to download it directly from your profile. But
thanks, Megan. I'm thinking through this, that if you have a live, let's say it's 15 minutes or less, let's say it's on Instagram and it's the split screen. And if that 15-minute video file is living in your videos and you can download it, the only thing I'm thinking is getting that vertical oriented video over to YouTube might be a little clunky because of the length of it. But you could definitely take snippets of that vertical format and upload it as YouTube Shorts. But that's good to know that it doesn't disappear. I know even, we did not get into TikTok Live because why talk about all the places? But there are certain aspects that, people, when I think about TikTok Lives, they live for a certain window of time. So thank you for looking into it. And with LinkedIn, yes, this screenshot, just getting a little bit nerdy here. If you see this little, what would this be, a watermark? StreamYard, you have to use a third-party tool. So you can go live on LinkedIn with Zoom, or you can use a third-party tool like StreamYard. So thank you to whomever mentioned that makes sense, that that's where you could download the video from, on LinkedIn Live specifically. Okay, Megan, do you want me to head to the next slide for you? Do you want me to stop sharing? How can we answer more people's questions?
You can go ahead and move to the next slide. I am curious to hear if anybody has any other questions. I actually did have a question for you all.
Oh, sure.
I was curious for you all, for the benefit of the audience here. If you had one social media platform that you think that this group should focus on for their audience, what would your recommendation be? They can only if they only have time to focus on one right now. Which one would you recommend?
Instagram is my answer.
Yeah, I would say Facebook.
Well, I'll give my reasoning, and I'd love to hear
Yes.
yours, Allie. So Instagram, so many millions and millions and billions of female users. It's still a fun place to look at visuals, look at video. There's there's Instagram stories. Yes, there's Facebook stories too, but we don't have a client that doesn't have Instagram in their scope of work. Again, Instagram and Facebook are brother and sister, right? They're owned by Meta. So if you're using one, sure, I'm glad you mentioned Facebook, Allie. I do not believe in those sweeping statements of, nobody's on Facebook anymore, but Instagram is just such a visual and enticing place that for the people that you might trying to be reached, it's a good place to go for that. So, Allie, why do you think Facebook?
Well, fortunately, we don't live in a world that we have to choose one. Everybody could be everywhere if they
Yeah,
want
LinkedIn
to.
is a good one too. But
And LinkedIn's great, and so is, X, and so is TikTok. But I would say for your bet and focus and resources, Facebook to me seems like, by the demographics and the sheer amount of people, that would be where I would start. But obviously, you don't have to just stick to one. I would start there.
yeah, and we wouldn't be prudent social media strategists if we said, picking one is the same as a strategy. Of course, I love the question. I understood the assignment. If you could pick one, which would it be? But the social networks you choose to be on is also not the same as a strategy. So, yeah. What about you, Megan? Do you have an opinion on that one?
I also agree with Facebook, just based on the demographics that are out there, for sure.
Great.
I did just want to note, there is Denise actually shared a really interesting report in the chat. If anyone's curious, if you're looking to see who the demographics are, to take a look at that, because I feel like Facebook has the right audience, but research will probably tell you more specifically who is what.
Yeah. Sorry, just saying
No, go ahead.
I don't think we're at a point where we have to say like, okay, let's just completely ditch one network. But yet there's a lot to be said about, quality over quantity. Yeah, and I'm sure we're still going to see more social networks pop up. We're, like I said, we've reached the mature point of the medium, but I'm sure more will pop on, and then people say, let's all go over there. But yeah, I love the question.
Okay. We do have another question. Marcy had said, it seems like Facebook usage has changed in the last 2 months. Have you seen this in your work?
We definitely have. A concrete example, I think everyone is well aware of just the changes to organic reach. Paid opportunities on Facebook have been around for quite some time, but tightening of the reins of, hey, we're going to show less and less people your content, and we're going to show even less people if your content isn't doing something for the people that do see it. Also with Facebook, it's just still quite busy, right? Because you've got groups and you've got marketplace, and there's so many different bells and whistles and things happening over there that it almost seems to me like, I don't know if Facebook is even paying attention to the fact that it is a content platform at times. So we've seen it change. What I will say with some of our larger clients, when we look at the Instagram versus Facebook activity, we do see a lot of green growth happening on Instagram, especially for businesses that haven't really taken a strong stance with their Instagram presence. Maybe that's, again, because they're kind of plateauing on Facebook, and Instagram is still just this very hustling and bustling, exciting place. And Facebook is pouring so many resources into, Meta, into Instagram. So yes, and I wish there was okay, well, it's just for the next 30 days. They're testing this one thing, hang tight, and it'll be back to normal. it is as moving of a target as a moving target can be. So, Allie, I don't know if you agree.
Well, and fortunately, it's universal, right? It's not like one person is excused from all the changes that happen all the time. So we're on it and in it every day, experiencing the changes not only from the interaction but also from the metrics perspective that guide our decision making and our action taking.
Thanks
We
for the
did
question.
we did get a question from Brittany. She mentioned that they had a post go viral on Facebook 17 days after posting. Do you see that often?
Yes, so one of the things we look at in our metrics reports, we'll look at the content performance over the month, and we look for the spikes. And so if you see a spike on the 17th, you want to say, what did we post on the 17th? It had to be gold. Well, you realize that no, the post that performed really well was actually posted, like she said, maybe on the 5th of the month or the 10th of the month, but that just happened to be a day where a lot of people saw it. So that wouldn't be uncommon. It's not a direct line of what did we post that day that got that increase. And again, there's so many factors of, well, is someone tuning into their mobile, and refreshing the app? Are they seeing it on desktop? That just impacts, when it was served to someone. Maybe a post that a few other people that you're connected with liked it. And so it didn't get served to you that day, but more people you're connected with started to like it. So 12 days later, it gets served to you. So there's just so many factors, but do not be alarmed if that happens. And also just take note of what we had to learn ourselves, that it is not what got posted that day. And you obviously understood that since you just mentioned it was a previous post.
Okay.
Okay.
There's some chatter in the chat about Facebook Reels. The post that went viral was a reel. Seeing a lot of growth on there with video and reel, which aligns with what you were saying before about video being really important on social.
Yeah, and I think about with some of our Reels work, our video strategy, it's so easy to slip into the let's do a complete concept, in a video, but the idea is just to spark a little curiosity. I would love to know if Brittany has said, what the topic of that reel was, but less is more. And it's really hard because, like I said, we want to be thorough and say, here's the concept of this video and it's going to teach this particular thing, and leave the person with the call to action. But sometimes it's just about grabbing the attention, and so less is more, shorter is better. And again, triggering those psychographics of what's something that your muse might be thinking of that day can help you think about what should our next reel be about.
We did get another question. Melissa wants to know if there's a difference in the content you post on stories versus a regular post.
Oh, sure. So specifically thinking within the terms of Instagram. So if a regular post is like a grid post, and then, your stories post is your bulletin board, or, your 24-hour content that's happening. I would go with posts that might be a little more of a longer shelf life, can be for your grid posts. And then things that are, hey, we have this great event today, that can go in stories, because after 24 hours, that might not be worth having in the grid. I also think about repeating activity. If there's something every month that happens, I wouldn't clog up the grid with a post that is repetitive, because even if you do, 4 posts a week, so let's say, what's that, 16 a month, it's from a grid standpoint, you'll see that post too close together to the other. So I just think of frequent posts and time sensitive posts to go to stories. We do highly recommend the strategy of anything that you post to the grid, send up to stories. With some of our community management work that we do for clients, that's where your Instagram handle looks really active and busy on Instagram if you are sharing stories that other people have posted. So spending time in the feed as your profile and sending other people's posts up to stories is a good strategy too, for engagement. Because again, it makes you look like a good Instagram citizen to Instagram. So at least that bare minimum litmus test of, is this time sensitive? It could go to stories.
Okay, we're getting a couple more questions here, so we're getting some.
Oh, this is great. In fact, do you want me to? I can stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, why don't you stop sharing your screen, then we can kind of check them out too. So we do have a question. Yes. How many times a day do you think they should be posting both stories on Instagram and Facebook?
Well, okay, I don't want to tell you when they have to do this every single day, but having an active story bubble, remember that the story lasts for 24 hours. So having it active as much as possible, depending on how you structure your work, you might say, nope, my phone is down, my social media work is done over the weekend. So technically by, Saturday night, that the 24-hour window, your story might go quiet. But it is good to have the stories active as much as you possibly can. So if you're doing a post to the grid on Instagram and sending it to story, that's an easy one because you're already posting. But perhaps on the days where you don't have a post planned, you can keep that story, I call it a story bubble, that story bubble active by sending posts by other people up to it. So it's prudent to have that story bubble be active as much as possible. But I also know there's a reality, and I don't want to sit here and say, just get on that hamster wheel and never get off. Allie, I don't know what you think about it.
No, I mean, that's, obviously it's about visibility, and that's one great way to stay visible.
Yes. Side note, I just was reading through some of our metrics because we just ended May. Meta changes a lot of the results that they release to third-party tools. There's all kinds of software that you can use for your social media results. And I just noticed, this caught my attention, that story likes were not being included. So if you get people seeing your story, that we just got done saying, why do you have your story active? So that more people see your handle and they go to the story. Well, if they tap a heart or a funny emoji, laughing emoji, those metrics aren't recorded. I don't know if it's temporary, but it's something that we are definitely going to be reporting to our client, because that's one of the reasons we keep the story bubble active. So people can not only see what we have going, but they can interact and share an emoji or even DM us. But that sort of activity isn't being pulled in metrics, at least this past month. It's very in the weeds, but if anyone wants to talk metrics, we've got you covered.
We did get a question. Do you think using hashtags is still relevant to use on social posts?
I sure do. I mean, especially in the actual post. Again, I go right to Instagram. I'm realizing how busy outside my window is right now. On Instagram, including hashtags in the caption is still a tried and true method. It's a moving target of how many. Maybe someone can tell what's the latest. I see our colleague Nicole Kukab from Hey There. How many hashtags to include is the moving target. Are we including 30 because they give you the space for 30, or is 8 the best practice? There's a lot of talk about Instagram trying desperately to be a more functional search engine. So that leads to less is more. Don't try to trick the algorithm, just tell it what your post is about. And so that's where hashtags can be useful. So yes, to still using them. I haven't read any articles lately about them being a pivotal thing to use on Facebook in particular. And then on LinkedIn, they're mostly used to give a little bit of context to people about what the post is about. I read an article not too long ago that on LinkedIn, I think the top performing hashtag is either now hiring or hiring. So it just makes sense, that people might be looking that hashtag up. So yes, to using your hashtags. If you want to get into any sort of metrics reporting, that's something we look at for our clients. We spend a lot of time looking at most engaged hashtags and seeing, is it a mix of brand name? Is it a mix of their industry, keywords? And is it a mix of geo? Some of our clients, hey, doesn't matter if they're in the state of Ohio and someone from California is never going to buy from them.
Okay, I think we have time for 2 more questions here.
Thanks, Megan. I'm just seeing Nicole. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
IG current best practice is 6 to 8. Be sure to always include location hashtags. Oh my gosh, yay. More tips and value coming right from our chat. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Nicole's on our team.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I think we have time for one more question. If you have questions, put them in the chat and we will make sure to get those answered and get answers over to you. What content are you recommending that people who work for home care posting to their stories? Do you have any ideas of things that they can post?
Content that is just relevant to their brand?
Yeah. So the question was, what content are you posting daily in stories for home care? So do you have any ideas of things that they can post in stories?
So again, think of stories. Okay. The grid is, your business the content right from your mouth, so to speak, while stories can be much more collaborative. I gave the example of, you know, a home organizer. You know, maybe you see a meme that's like the first 3 things to get rid of when downsizing. You know, maybe you come across a woman who has an Amazon store and she recommends like the best document storage file cupboard. I mean, something like that, anything that's useful to the people that, you know, benefit from your particular offering and community. Go with synergistic. Like if it resonates and it's synergistic, it doesn't have to necessarily be, we really like our residents to have very solid estate plans. Let's make sure we share articles from, you know, up to stories from estate planning attorneys. It doesn't have to be that literal. I would say anything that's, you know, fun and synergistic, and even pet related. You know, everyone loves a good animal meme, but think about residents. If your residents have pets, maybe there is a post that you shared as stories that talks about something that's related to them too. So yeah, synergistic. Don't feel like it's okay, we are putting our stamp of approval and we are saying this is an official statement from our business if you share something to stories.
Love that. Well, as Emily mentioned, we are going to be going live on LinkedIn on June 25th. I will send more information on the event in the follow-up email for this webinar. And we will continue answering your questions. I'm making a note of some of the questions we didn't get to. But Emily and I are really excited to have a fun conversation over on LinkedIn and continue answering some of the questions and talking about some of the topics we've discussed here today. So we would love to see you all virtually there as well. We appreciate everyone for coming today. We appreciate Emily and Allison for their insights. This has been super helpful and really informative, and has even helped me with some of the stuff that I'm going to be working on for social media. Their offer, if you didn't get a chance to follow through on it or use the QR code, will be in our email following up. That will contain the recording to the webinar and the slides. So you'll get that in the next few days. There's a survey that will pop up when you leave this webinar. If you could fill it out, we'd love to hear more about what kind of topics you all want to hear, kind of help inform some of the things you might be seeing from us going forward. And with that, we're going to let everyone get back to their Tuesday and hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you for having us, Megan.
Thank you for having us. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.